It is May, and just like lots of the other YouTubers out there, I'm going to show you what I'm starting seeds for here in my Northeast Florida Zone 9B garden. And to join me in concert, we have crows and blue jays who are having a little bit of a lip sync battle going on. So hopefully that will just add to the entertainment of this video. So let's get started. I have everything in a bucket, and I am very proud to say I have something different for me. I am the world's worst. I don't know that there's anybody worse than I am at this, at labeling their plants. I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you are superb at it, and a 1 being you forget almost every time, I am probably somewhere around a 2. So maybe I'm not the world's worst, but where would you grade yourself on labeling your seed starting? So I have a marker, a permanent marker, not a red marker. I've used a red marker before, and the red just fades away even when it's permanent. So we're gonna see if this works this year. So I've got my markers, and let's take a peek. So first, we have from One Mellow Marigold, some French marigolds. If you haven't seen One Mellow Marigold's channel, Casey is over there. I actually bought something from Casey in her Etsy shop, and she included these freed marigold seeds. I'm gonna plant these marigolds. I also have from Jennifer, she sent me actually 2 kinds of seeds that I'm going to be starting. Also some French marigolds, so I'm excited about getting those started. Can't have too many marigolds out in the garden, I don't think. And then, this is really exciting, Everglades tomatoes. And you're thinking, Michelle, it's May in Florida. These are the tomatoes you want to plant. I gotta say, thank you to Jackie over at Wild Floridian or Jacqueline at Wild Floridian for mentioning that, because I went into my stash and I was like, I have Everglade tomato seeds. So very excited about that. This is a Florida heirloom seed, and it can take the heat of Florida. Next, I am going to be sowing some nasturtium. I have never successfully sown nasturtium, so we're gonna give it a try again. I've tried a couple of times, but we'll see if that works out. If you watched anything last month, you may know I tried to direct sow culantro, and I'll see if I can get it. I don't know if it will focus in on that if I get it that close. Culantro, we use it in Vietnamese pho, which is a noodle soup, often with beef, sometimes with chicken. And it is one of the herbs when you go into the pho restaurant. It'll be in your little platter, and it's a saw-looking blade. Well, my direct sow did not work. Now, one of the things I will say is these have been here sticking around, bumping around the house for 4 years. And so I'm going to direct sow them. I'm going to start them in a pot this time so I can see what's growing on with them. I direct sowed them in a bed and then ended up with a bunch of spurge in that bed. And so as I plucked the spurge, I probably disturbed the seeds for the culantro. I am also starting Roselle hibiscus. Now, I have wanted to build this in as a hedge. So we're gonna start with a few plants and see how they look, because I would love to have an edible hedge with things I can make tea with and enjoy. And so this is an Asian sour leaf variety, Roselle hibiscus. While we're in the hibiscus family, let's talk about 3 other hibiscus heat-loving plants. And we have okra. This is an Okinawa pink, and it's so pretty. It's like it says it's pink, but it's really a nice burgundy, and it really looks beautiful growing. And a couple of little tips. One, if you have trouble catching okra before it gets too big because you can't see it because it's green, this will help with that. It also has a nice mild flavor. I have successfully grown okra, this variety, before. In fact, this is from 2022. Not everything here is this year's seeds. For the most part, most of my seeds are well taken care of in the house, even though they're bumped around, so I don't worry about that. Next is motherland okra. Now, these are kind of cool looking. They actually, just like you can see the shape there, they grow about the size of a golf ball, somewhere between a golf ball and a ping pong ball. And so those are also really good, and they get very, very, very tall. So I've got to make sure when I plant these that I am ready to keep them cut back to about 7 feet so that I can make sure I can harvest all of them without it all toppling over when the winds of summer come through. And then we have a pretty common one that you see everywhere, which is a Clemson spineless. Now, these two are not spineless. And if you don't know the difference between spineless and not spineless, it is the thing on okra plants that makes you itchy, in my opinion, and you get more fuzz on the okra plant, on the okra pods. And so the spineless, you get less of that. I didn't grow okra last year, I don't think. I didn't grow okra last year. And so I've had some itchiness on my skin growing okra. And now I have it with cucumber. And so just whenever you go to pick your okra, pick your cucumber, if you think you're having an allergic reaction to touching it, then wear something long sleeves. I'm gonna be looking at some of those Farmer Defense sleeves. Have you guys tried those? I would love to know down in the comments if you tried those out and you like them in the garden. Or I'm gonna wear like my wicking shirts. I have summer shirts, long sleeve summer shirts, so maybe I'll wear those when it's time to start doing picking. But so 3 different varieties of okra. I am also going to try to start some red onions. Now, it might be a little late for me to start these in Florida, but I'm gonna see what happens. This one is the one I'm not sure about in timing. Next, I have yard-long beans, and this is a fresh packet of seeds. I have grown successfully yard-long beans almost every season. They are a staple in our house, and when I say a yard-long bean, it really does get I've never grown one that's actually a yard, but they get very long. We prefer them when they're thinner, and before they get fully filled in. They are great in anything you might cook with beans. We eat a lot of Asian stir fries. I will chop them up and put them in a salad raw when they're really small. Very delicious, very delicious. Now, this I know I am late planting, but I'm gonna try anyway also. And this is from Haas. This is Stoll's Evergreen Sweet Corn. And so we're gonna try this again this year. I tried this a couple of years ago, and this is old also. But I wanna give it a try and see if I can get some corn growing. I haven't yet, now that I committed to corn, I haven't figured out where I'm gonna plant it yet. But what I do know is I want to plant it in a block formation, and I want to plant it close together so that it can easily fertilize and easily get, have fertilization. There we go. Sorry, the words aren't working as good today. Next, and these are from M.I. Gardener, this is Aunt Molly's ground cherry tomato. So I am very excited about this. I am going to start these in actually everything. I might direct sow the long beans because I know how easily they come up and how easily they grow. But I think I will still start the seeds in a pot for the ground cherries. I am excited to try these. I've always had really good luck with tomatillos, and so I'm hoping that it'll be fun like that, and we'll see what the flavor is like. It says here it is the combination flavor from a tomatillo to a slight pineapple to get the best of both worlds. Now, we use tomatillos and green tomatoes in a lot of soups, and so this might also make a good substitute for that. Now, we're gonna, then Thai chili pepper. So I'm excited about being able to get these started out. We use not as much lately, but every once in a while it's nice to have a little pepper to spice up a dish, and then we can dry it and use the dried pepper on things as well. Next, we have the Katrina F1 cucumber, and I am actually going to use these in an experiment, so you're going to have to tune back into another video to see all of that experiment. But I'm excited because the Katrinas are what is known as a parthenocarpic, if I say it right, parthenocarpic cucumber, which means that it doesn't require pollinators in order to grow a cucumber. Whereas your typical cucumbers, and I learned this from the Millennial Gardener, so thank you Millennial Gardener. typical cucumbers are monoecious. I hope I get it right. I'll make sure I put the words on the screen to double check. And those are the ones that have male and female flowers. And you need to have cross-pollination between the male and female flowers. With the parthenocarpic version, you do not have to have a pollinator for it because the seeds or the flowers are self-fertile. You get mostly female flowers and they can do it. Very similar in a way to, I think, this is my opinion, I probably should do research for saying it, but similar to how tomatoes don't necessarily have to cross-pollinate. Though you might, I've heard of people taking an electric toothbrush if they happen to be in not a particularly windy area and buzzing the tomato so that the pollen can fall onto the right place. And so, but we're gonna see how this works out. I'm very excited about this, so definitely stay tuned for that. And then we have some redos. And so I direct sowed basil in 2 different beds as well as in my green stalk. The ones in the green stalk were closest to water and closest to attention, and so they were better cared for and they're already sprouting. But the everleaf Thai towers, which gets to be very tall from what I understand, it is not, only one of them came up. And so, and I think it really had more to do with me than it did the seed because it just didn't get watered properly and I put too much straw over it anyway. It was a mess. So I'm just gonna start them in a seed starting tray and then I'll know what I have there. The same thing for the Thai downy meniscus. I'm still thinking about my knee surgery. Downy mildew resistant version here. And so this is also from Johnny's and I'm gonna plant this in with some beans. And then finally, I am succession sowing this mesclun pack, but the first round that I did really didn't take, I direct sowed them. So I'm going to start them in a seed starting tray and then once they're large enough, put them out into the garden. The one thing that I have noticed, and if you saw that video where I originally talked about overseeding, and I was going to also succession seed along with the lettuce. I was going to succession seed some bok choy, and so I overseeded so much that after thinning the plants, I had 27-ish more plants, and so I transferred them. So instead of succession sowing, I actually just pricked and replanted, and I'm happy that I did that. But I do notice that while the snails did not attack the ones that grew up in the bed, the freshly transplanted one just must have seemed like num-nums because they're all okay still, but I can see that they got a little bit of snail eaten on them. And so again, it's back to that idea that, you know, we have to balance with nature and figure out what's going to be best. But starting them, starting the lettuce, I think makes good sense. The other thing that I didn't think about when I had the, maybe this happened, when I had the pak choi is I use some cages over them. They're actually just trash cans from Dollar Tree, but I put some cages over them, and maybe, just maybe, that kept the snail from getting to the first round of them, and I didn't have a cage over it then. I do now. I've now moved the cage to the new ones. And maybe that's what happened to the lettuce that I direct sowed. Maybe the snails just took it up before it ever got to be anything. So at any rate, that, my friends, is what I am going to be seed starting. I have already set up my seed starting trays. I don't think I'm gonna have enough, but before I start planting, I'm gonna sit down and finish writing up my labels. So I want to know what you're planting in your area in May. Please put that in the comments below. I love learning what's growing on in other areas. In fact, I know Habitual Hobbies, you should check out her channel, was saying they had a cooler spring. So she's actually stretching broccoli to plant. Our broccoli, if I had planted any, would be long gone by now. I have another friend who's in California who wants to grow tomatoes, and it is just too hot. He lives in the desert. It's just too hot there. And so I recommended for him that he wait and do fall tomatoes, and hopefully he can get the temperatures low enough to get blooms and get some fruit on before it gets really cold out in the desert. So, you know, it's just funny what you're able to do in the different areas and how well things can work out. So I don't know, this is like the time of year everybody gets really excited. You know, it's easy to keep everything organized, and then as the year goes on, as the season goes on, it gets a little crazier, but that's all right. Well, if you want to know more about what's growing on out here in the meadow, be sure to check out this video right over here. And until next time, my friends, remember to drink plenty of water, wear that high quality sunscreen, and as always, have a fantastic day.